Hello friends, and welcome to this week's musical devotion. Behind me, you'll see that there are Christmas decorations, and we are actually decorated in the church for Christmas because we're recording for the Christmas Eve service this week. The recording that we were supposed to do tomorrow night is being delayed probably until Friday. So I thought I would take advantage of this time to just talk to you a little bit about this week's piece today, which means that you'll see some Christmas decorations. On Sunday, it will be Advent-y in here, and then on Thursday, it will be Christmassy again. So, church in the time of COVID. The great American author, he was a biographer of Lincoln and a great poet, Carl Sandburg, once considered all the signs of hope in America, and this was happening in the world during the Great Depression. And he codified them into a poem entitled Hope is a Tattered Flag. Some of the reasons for hope that he saw in life were tiny things, seemingly insignificant. The luck piece in the pocket. Others were epic. I want to share a few words of this poem with you just to sort of show you where my thinking is coming from. Hope is a tattered flag and a dream of time. Hope is a heart-spun word. The evening star inviolable over the coal mines, the shimmer of northern lights across a bitter winter night, the blue hills beyond the smoke of the steelworks. Sandburg kind of put his lens on American society and found all of these things of tremendous beauty and hope in the daily life and work of Americans in a time of great adversity. Now, we've had a different theme for each week of Advent, as we do every year, and this coming week, the theme is love. It's the fourth Sunday of Advent, this coming Sunday, and I have lately been pondering the love in my life, and how during this year, during the pandemic, I have been the recipient of much love, and I've also found deeper reservoirs of love within myself to give to others. It brings to mind that song from a couple summers ago by Wilco, the great indie rock band. There's a lyric, "Love is everywhere, beware." I started to make my own Sandburgian list of love based on just the recent weeks. Part of the love is the way that I've been able to connect with friends from near and far over Zoom and Skype and FaceTime, text, sometimes on the phone, that we're all looking out after each other a little bit more than we did before. There was a different kind of love that was frightened when I got the phone call from my parents that my father had tested positive for COVID. And another kind of love, a kind of love that hurts, was suffused with worry when my mom and I both cried on the phone after the ambulance took my dad away. She wasn't able to hold his hand during that ride to the hospital, and I wasn't able to visit him in the hospital. There was another kind of love, this time still full of concern, but a little bit of relief when my dad, who had not been doing well, was able to call my mom from the ER and tell her that he was being well cared for and that he thought it would be okay. There's the love of the prayer chain at our church here who stormed heaven on my parents' behalf and on behalf of all those who are struggling. This is something the prayer chain does every day. And you'll get a couple extra emails where people will send their prayers to heaven on behalf of those who are in trouble. There was a love of a parishioner who herself had recovered from COVID, who checked in several times over the past few weeks to see how my parents were doing and to offer her wise counsel and concern. The love of friends who checked in daily. I have a friend who sent my parents 2 cards because he really wanted them to know that he was pulling for them. And Pam Calipay emailed me to say, would your dad like a lap robe that she had crocheted for Yarnworks? Amy and I made food for my parents, and I can tell you that the biggest ingredient in that food, in the soup that Amy made and in the mac and cheese that I made for them, was the biggest ingredient was love. We hoped they would enjoy this food in their recovery. There are more prosaic forms of love. Virtual concerts from organizations I love around the world as singers adapt to COVID, and the painful reality that making music in groups is one of the most dangerous things we can do. One of our favorite jazz artists singing of eternal things, singing of love from her tiny apartment in New York City. love in the musings of the fishmonger philosopher in Philadelphia, whose newsletter has become a recent lifeline for me. He peppers descriptions of his wares with musings about life and love and pep talks about how we're all going to get through this, especially if we make muscles. Pleas for tolerance and patience and caution. I think of the love in the work of everyone trying to get our parish ready for Christmas, some kind of Christmas. We're not sure what it's going to look like yet, but stringing lights and trees in the grove and putting together the giant tree that's behind me, the Setzers and Larry Golick and Christian. And then I think about the love that comes to us at Christmas in a way that I think is especially memorably described by the deeply gifted poet Christina Rossetti. She writes, "Love came down at Christmas, love all lovely, love divine. Love was born at Christmas, stars and angels gave the sign. Worship we the Godhead, love incarnate, love divine. Worship we our Jesus, but wherewith for the sacred sign? Love shall be our token, love be yours and love be mine, love be to God and all men, love for plea and gift and sign." I think our world is very hungry for love now. And because the theme of the fourth Sunday of Advent is love, I always like to program one hymn for the last hymn of the day. This is the hymn that kind of transitions us to Christmas. The text was written by Eleanor Farjeon, who is an English author, poet, and hymn writer, and after whom a literary prize is awarded for children's literature. She's most known for that hymn and poem that many of us sing in our churches, "Morning Has Broken." The poem in case of this piece is "People Look East." And I think all of you who sing with us regularly will recognize that text, "People look east. The time is near of the crowning of the year. Make your house fair as you are able. Trim the hearth and set the table. People look east and sing today. Love, the guest, is on the way." And throughout the poem, she imagines love kind of metaphorically as a rose and discusses how roses bloom. And even though the earth is bare, one more seed is planted there. She talks about birds. And the birds verse was removed from the Lutheran hymnal. And I imagine the committee being like, I think we're going to do away with the birds. But I actually think it's a great verse. "Birds, though you long have ceased to build, guard the nest that must be filled. Even the hour when wings are frozen, God for fledgling time has chosen. People look east and sing today. Love the bird is on the way." And then we have "Love the star, the world illumined by God's light and love." And then finally, the metaphors cease. And she writes, "Angels announce with shouts of mirth, Christ who brings new life to earth. Set every peak and valley humming with the word, the Lord is coming. People look east and sing today. Love, the Lord is on the way." It's a great hymn. It's full of joy. I think it's suffused with love. And we're used to singing the French chorale. Et cetera, et cetera. And that's a great tune. It has that wonderful sort of dance feel to it of its time. And we always really enjoy singing this out. It's the transition we make to Christmas. A few years ago, I was at a carol service in Manhattan, and I heard another setting of this text, and one that included the elusive bird text. And it was written by the composer Christopher Steele. Christopher Steele died, I believe, in the 90s. But he was kind of a minor composer in England, wrote lots of organ music and some really beautiful anthems. And this piece reminds me often of pieces with what we would call the Christmas chord. And I'm not even going to play it for you. I think you would recognize it to hear it. There are certain harmonies that we associate with kind of the old-timey standards of Christmas, songs that you would imagine Mel Torme or Nat King Cole to sing. And the interesting thing about this anthem is that it includes these sort of Christmas chords in the context of an English anthem that's going to be accompanied by a pipe organ, and which will be sung by a choir. And that's not exactly the sort of croony kind of music that we expect. And so the tempo is a little bit faster, it lilts along with great joy, and it has lots of those sort of interesting Christmassy harmonies. I'm going to play you, I haven't had enough time to practice this, but I'm going to play you a verse that he sets for unaccompanied choir. And the harmonies just sound very Christmassy and full of joy and full of love. And one of the great composers, John Ritter, once said of Christmas that there are things that are sublime and profound. I'm paraphrasing. He said there are things that are profound and sublime about Christmas and very deep, and then there are things that are slightly cheesy, and we get this giant amalgamation of all of that, and somehow it's all good, that Christmas is all good. And so you think of some of the most garish Christmas decorations you can imagine in a neighbor's house while you're listening to the most serious and beautiful carol in your choir, and it all comes together. Because the world is desperate and in deep need of love. And these are some of the ways, these are the visible signs, the tokens that we try to extend to others, the gifts of generosity and love and kindness and grace. So anyway, let me play you some Christmas chords, and then I'm going to send you on your way to this fun and very jaunty Advent/Christmas anthem, People Look East. So here's the unaccompanied verse. So I got most of the notes right, and I think that just has that beautiful sense of joy and love and expectation, but also confidence in what comes to us when Love Our Guest arrives. So I hope that in the remaining days before Christmas, as we enter the fourth Sunday of Advent with its theme of love, that we will feel that love, that we will give that love, that we will partake in God's voracious and generous love, and then we will show others the same. So have a wonderful rest of the week, a great weekend. I'm looking forward to seeing some of you outdoors on what will probably be a cold and possibly snowy or rainy Christmas Eve. You will be able to watch the pre-recorded Christmas Eve service that we're recording this week. Take good care of yourselves, be safe, be healthy, and we'll see you soon. God bless.